Thanks, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the Stand Up for Cameroon civil society platform steps up pressure for a political transition in Cameroon. Members of the platform took to the streets today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, calling for no elections and a political transition in the country of President Paul Biya. And the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goody, reassures Cameroonians in crisis-hit Anglophone Cameroon that all security measures have been taken for them to come out in their numbers Sunday and vote in the municipal and legislative elections. Those were top stories. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. We begin in the city of Douala, where insecurity is on the rise. A good quantity of motor spare parts have been recovered. A good quantity of the motor spare parts were recovered today by security forces, or better still forces of law and order, after an operation launched by the Mobile Intervention Police Force in the city of Douala. And of course, we have details with Manjik and Gabriel.
From the first view, one will think this is a room inhabited by someone. But as we move closer, getting into the room, it's filled with different parts of cars. It was the discovery made by the elements of the Mobile Intervention Police Force, GMI-2, who were in the Camp Yabasi neighborhood of Douala for a surprise operation to acquire the stolen part of a car belonging to a top administrator in Douala.
Cette opération en réalité fait suite.
It was due to the breaking into a car of a top administrator in Douala last Sunday that we embarked on this operation. The regional delegate of public security then instructed us to get the stolen items within a week.
Le rétroviseur de ce haut responsable volé est évidemment de faire place nette et de retrouver au besoin où est-ce que ces matériels volés sont habituellement stockés.
With Commissioner Mefiri at the head of this operation, 1 week was enough to track the stolen parts of the vehicle.
La main sur cet important stock de pièces détachées.
The operation led to the discovery of other car spare parts, like this brand new digital player removed from a Jeep set for the black market, side glasses with matricule numbers on them, and a variety of other spare parts. It was within 1 week that investigation led by Commissioner Mefire made this discovery, and the population is called upon to come for identification and collection of just spare parts.
Nous attendons évidemment toutes les victimes.
We are now waiting and calling on those whose car parts have been stolen and could vividly identify them to come with their documents as proof before they collect the parts.
Je profite également toujours inviter.
And we are calling on the population to collaborate with us in our mission.
Parce que nous ne sommes pas des dieux nécessairement pour savoir tout ce qui se passe dans les quartiers. C'est avec leur collaboration que nous allons toujours réussir à démanteler les gangs.
The different car spare parts that were seized at the Camp Yabasi neighborhood are now at the Esplanade of the Mobile Intervention Police Unit, GMI-2, where they are being classified for onward identification and collection.
The quantity of motor spare parts has been recovered as a result of the work of forces of law and order in the town of Douala, and the quantity has been recovered at a time when the stealing of cars and motor spare parts has been on the rise. Now we talk about the Stand Up for Cameroon civil society platform. That civil society platform led by opposition politician, national president of the Cameroon People's Party CPP, Kabanwala Edit, is stepping up efforts towards a political transition in the country. The members of the platform staged a move today in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, saying no to elections and yes to a political transition in Cameroon. The members simply think that the present regime has failed to deliver the goods as far as the well-being and development of Cameroon and its people is concerned, and they think that the only solution is a political transition in the Cameroon. Now to the far north region of the country, where security measures have been taken ahead of the February 9 or Sunday's municipal legislative elections in the Cameroon, and the authorities are ensuring the people that they will vote hitch-free. They will go out and vote without any problem. It should, however, be indicated that Boko Haram attacks have been on the rise in that part of the country in recent days. Details with Immaculate Fogwe.
The population of Marwa in the far north region of Cameroon are skeptical about their security ahead of the upcoming municipal and legislative elections. We have experienced several attacks perpetrated by the Boko Haram terrorist sect. We know that these people are unpredictable and can surprise us at any time. The fear of the unknown during the holding of campaign rallies for the upcoming municipal and legislative elections has resulted to reinforcement of security. Vigilante members have been positioned in strategic areas so as to tackle security threats carried out by the terrorist sect. We are advising youths to be vigilant by avoiding persons they don't know. In case they suspect someone, they should hurriedly alert the vigilante members. The senior divisional officer of the Damari division had a tete-a-tete discussion with 9 divisional officers and security officials in his jurisdiction on how to protect the population from attacks. In collaboration with Election Cameroon, we have taken different measures so as to be assured that election materials arrive here safely and that elections should move on hitch-free. While sensitizing his close collaborators alongside security officials, Jean-Marc Ekwabaga called on the population to collaborate with administrative authorities so as to assure their security during this critical moment.
And Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gute, tells Cameroonians in the crisis-hit Anglophone Cameroon that all security measures have been taken to ensure that the municipal and legislative elections of Sunday will unfold hitch-free and that they will be able to go out and vote without any problem. He was speaking yesterday in the southwest regional chief town, Boya. We have details with our correspondent, Derek Jato.
The Cameroon Prime Minister and Head of Government is sending a message of invitation to the people of the Southwest region in a cultural fashion. Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gute is telling his people as a traditional ruler of the land that the time is here for them to decide.
I will knock that drummer. For all beginning, Papa, Sister, Mami for Southwest on Sunday to go out and vote.
The message is in the sound as he drummed on. The Cameroon Prime Minister is in Boya, the southwest regional capital, this political peak moment to encourage the militant and campaign for his CBDM party. And the occasion is taking place here at the Independence Square in Boya. But while ascending to the venue, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gute, after being received at the Mongo Bridge, made some stops in Tiko, Mutengeni, and Limbe to greet the population. And the Prime Minister must have noticed that the bustling character is near absent. A lockdown has been imposed by separatists, their own strategy for the elections not to hold.
I want to assure you that all measures have been taken to ensure your security before, during and after these elections.
The crisis has drained everything from us, he added.
Ghost towns, lockdowns, threats to life, kidnappings, killing.
And it is time now for the reconstruction.
There has been a time for violence and hatred. Let us agree that the time has come for peace and love to reign.
The special status and the 15% of the budget for councils is a chance for rejuvenation, and the Southwest region cannot be left behind.
In deciding their local development priorities,
on the ground, it is all about campaigns, political parties, and the elections.
We are very, very pleased with the visit of the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. John Guti in the Southwest region, which has really boosted our morals.
Let everybody come out and decide who should be his or her leader, and let everybody come out to say it is time for peace and for real democracy.
The political parties are negotiating their last bend, with aspirants begging the electorate to see them as their developmental factor.
I am Sake Esono Louis Besinga, first Deputy Mayor of Mondeba Council, aspiring to become the Mayor of Mondeba Council.
The result after the 9 February polls will be a reflection of their weight and influence, and these actors are many hours away.
And despite the security challenges in Anglophone Cameroon, Northwest and Southwest regions of the country, the political party of Dr. Benz Bate Eno, that is the Cameroon Democratic Party, and of course the other militants of the party are moving through into the nooks and crannies of the Manyo division, canvassing for votes. The legislative candidates of the CDP party has been going from one part of the division and even to the most dangerous parts of the division as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, to meet the voters, to meet the people, and send through his campaign message. Innocent has more.
Despite all the threats from leaders of separatist groups in the Bialem and Manyo divisions in the Southwest region, Dr. Benz Enobate, chairman of the Cameroon Democratic Party and head of the CDP legislative list in Manyo division, braved the odds to campaign ahead of the municipal and legislative elections. Given the security challenges, he and his team landed in their campaign areas via helicopter. They first moved to Akwaya in Manyo division, where they met the people who have been battling to survive since the start of the Anglophone crisis. One of the locals expressed frustration to the CDP chairman, saying they have been laboring for politicians to eat, as in return they are given fake promises. That Akwaya, the oldest subdivision, should have been developed by now and be a division on its own. But Dr. Benz Bate Eno, the CDP legislative candidate for Manyo, promises to distinguish his party from his opponents and give the people absolute development like construction of accessible roads, provide electricity, potable water, internet installation, and all basic needs of the people through a trusted mayor.
You need a dynamic mayor, an enterprising mayor, a mayor that will deliver the entire Berlin area. Yeah! A mayor that will make sure that there is drinking water.
Yes, yes.
This television, if you
Yes.
can go here.
Yes.
If you can talk here.
That It is time to get the people out of the enclavement they have been in for 12 years.
I don't come for here. Now 12 years, this place, you know what changed the way I be one day be.
Yes.
Berlin deserves something more than this.
Yes. Wow.
The CDP legislative candidates instructed the locals be very vigilant when they go casting their votes by voting for CDP, the change and development bringing party.
Make una be very careful. Make una not go vote best way you don't care for una.
Before his departure via helicopter to Lebialen, where Ambazonian separatists highly threatened to frustrate any election activities, Dr. Benz Bate Eno asked the Akwaya people to open their eyes and monitor how the 500 million francs CFA disbursed for development of their municipality is being managed.
Yes.
And as days go by, as the elections draw near, some political parties are now changing strategies in order to be able to meet the maximum number of potential voters. One of such parties is the UDP party in the northwest region of the country, and our correspondent Stella spoke to the chairman of that political party and compiled the support.
The campaign fever is yet to be felt by anyone entering Bamenda for the first time. The streets are void of campaign messages of the aspirants. The United Democratic Party of Bochong El Haj Lawan Bako, the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, and the Bloc pour la Reconstruction et l'Indépendance Économique du Cameroon are the three who have carried out at least one or two campaigns in parts of the northwest region. For the UDP, the strategy is changing with the moment.
The United Democratic Party, UDP, in which I'm privileged to be his national chairman, his campaign is moving up well. We have campaigned the electorate during our meetings and even door-to-door campaigns. And I want to tell you that in Boyo Division, the United Democratic Party, UDP campaign is going on very well. In Jakiri, Bui Division, the United Democratic Party UDP campaign to go fine.
Emmanuel Gambo, a com notable, describes the UDP as a hunting dog. The Boyo man in particular must come out and vote if they want a bigger catch.
So please, I ask you to get up today and be wise. Let us copy from other fundoms, big fundoms like us. We are a very big fundom. We're a proud fundom. Let's copy from the fundom of the Bamunj. Let us copy from the people up north, the Dakolej. See what they do. Please, follow the catch with your own dogs. Nobody is going to bring home the catch to you. It is our opportunity today.
The party is campaigning for seats at the Glass House. The party's chair believes they can better serve the population of the Northwest region.
You electorate, those who are my friends, those who are not my friends, teachers, lawyers, magistrates, forces of law and order should take this particular card of UDP, which you have calabash inside. Vote it, and then you will never regret.
The population who have been bearing the burden of the Anglophone crisis are asking for a return to normalcy, for they have suffered and suffered enough.
And the court case between the Social Democratic Front and the election organizing body in Cameroon elections, Cameroon, that was to take place in the Kumba yesterday, did not hold, and the disgruntled Social Democratic Front officials dragging elections Cameroon to court for accepting ambulant voters, which they say is against the law. And in a brief session with elections Cameroon officials, the SDF members were promised that the persons concerned who are not registered in the Kumba will be given the voting stations, will be sent to respective polling stations where they have been registered. Now listen to these extracts for more details.
took Elecam to court basically to prohibit them not to register some eligible voters out of the revision exercise, because the commission was summoned for that exercise out of the normal statutory period required by the Electoral Code. I'm talking in particular of section 83 sub 1. The court didn't see it, so we moved with the president to the delegate of Elecam, who has assured us that the list is being revised, and eventually they will be assigned to specific polling stations to avoid ambulant voting. Basically, that's what has been decided.
A member of Cameroon's lower house of parliament, Honorable Mbanyo, speaking there to our correspondent in the Kumba. Now we're going to talk about the preparations ahead of the February 11 National Youth Day celebration, and the preparations are gaining steam in the southwest region despite the difficult socio-political and security climate reigning there. Derek Jato reports.
To be celebrated under the theme Youth, Peace, Decentralization and the Participation in Local Governance for a New Cameroon. Week-long activities within this Bilingualism Week are ongoing in Indian Division ahead of the National Youth Day celebration coming up on the 11th of February.
The 11th February Euphoria preparatory activities are there. We have made a round of schools, saw students and people. Some of them are in their classes, while some are involved in some other activities of other subcommittees in preparation for 11 February. From reports reaching me from the other subdivisions, it is the same calmness. And permit me use this opportunity to thank the population of India for being peaceful, for not respecting any cause by whosoever.
Championed mostly by the primary, secondary and higher learning institutions, with discussions and activities centered around youth and civic behavior, youth and the participation in nation building, sport, cultural exhibition, among other educative lessons.
As you can relate to yourself, all the children of Indian Division, according to the report reaching me, are doing human investment today and probably their socio-cultural activities.
Stopping by to witness and assess the effectiveness of these activities in his division is Fowang Lawrence, the senior divisional officer for Indian Division. In his address, he thanked these participants for their show of patriotism, which has been exhibited from the start of the Bilingualism Week. The 54th edition of the National Youth Day will be celebrated this Tuesday.
The Rejato reporting the Africa is one of only 2 continents with no confirmed cases of coronavirus as of now. However, experts have warned that the case or the first case could be confirmed anytime soon, given its increasingly close ties with the People's Republic of China. At least 565 people have died, with more than 28,000 confirmed cases around the world, most of them in China. Last week, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a global health emergency, and the reason was largely because of fears that poorer countries might not be able to cope with an outbreak. The health systems in many African countries are already struggling with the existing workload. Thus, the question, can they deal with another outbreak of a highly infectious disease? The World Health Organization has advised against travel restrictions and instead identified 13 top priority countries in Africa because of their direct link or high volume of travel to China. They are urged to be particularly vigilant, and these countries include Algeria, Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Mauritius, Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia. That's it for this first part of the news. Up next, our campaign slot. Thanks for staying with us in this last edition of our campaign slot on the 6 p.m. news. We're expecting to receive some political parties to take a look at what has been happening for the close to 2 weeks of campaigns ahead of Sunday's municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon. But we could only have a representative of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM, political party, and he is one of the leaders of the CPDM campaign team in the northwest region of the country. Alfred Fogwe is the CPDM section president for Noni Bui Division Northwest region of the country and director general of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company. Shante Naval, you welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, 2 weeks. You have been on the ground, I mean the party, the CPDM, across the national territory, and you're more concerned with the northwest region of the country because you're one of the leaders of the campaign team of the party in the northwest. How has it been, the 2 weeks of campaigns?
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been a hectic 2 weeks. As I said in the previous occasion, we had an occasion to chat on this issue. The CPDM party works methodically, and so the first week was dedicated to the launching, which took place first in Bamenda, and then after the regional launching we had a divisional launchings in the 7 divisions of the northwest. I must tell you that we had dynamic teams that made sure that our campaign was launched in all of the 7 divisions of the northwest. That was in the first week. Now the second week,
with leaders like Ngalajerat in Kambe,
yes,
Ofe Chinjemelo
in
Gokitunja, and the others.
Yes, with Fujonathan in Santa, with Minister Asheri Kilo in Bui. You know, so all the divisions were covered, and Minister Mba Acharos in Momo division. So that was the first week. Now in the second week, we tackled the council areas directly, and that's how come you could see Ngalajerat as well, going down from Kambe down into Tabiken, and you saw Minister Fukalistus going down to Misaje. You saw all the council leaders like Dr. Ngwang of the Bui West, which is Noni and Oku, going down to Elak. So that is what this second week has been. I want to tell you that, Jonathan, the CPDM party is the only party that is deployed throughout the 365 council areas of this country. And this comes to tell you that this is a party which has the interests of the grassroots populations of this country at heart. We are not a party that is only looking for city dwellers. We are thinking about the hardships that Cameroonians are facing at the grassroots. And what concerns the Northwest province, the Northwest region, you remember that we are living the most difficult moments of our history in the Northwest at this time. But these campaign teams braved all the odds, and thanks to security measures that were put in place by the government forces to ensure that all campaign teams, be they CPDM or even teams of the opposition parties, were accompanied when they requested to be able to take their message down to the grassroots.
I'm a little more concerned with some of the remote and very difficult areas which you mentioned earlier. For example, Oku, the village of the former Prime Minister Philemon Yang. Did the campaign teams get to Oku? And
of course.
How was it? There was no opposition. There was the way was free, or there was a kind of pressure brought to bear on those who could have brought opposition by the heavy presence of security and defense forces?
Well, Jonathan, you do well to ask, because that is my constituency. I come from that constituency as well. And I can assure you that it was not all that very easy, but the population braved all the odds because they were reassured of the security measures that had been put in place. And when they finally came out, it was, I don't know if you need to see the pictures. The population was out, the crowds were dancing to have that little freedom after almost 3 years of tension, of fear, of hiding. But today, we are proud to say that things are coming back gradually to normal.
Some of them certainly came out of the bushes.
Definitely.
For the first time.
Definitely.
After a long period of time.
In fact, we want to applaud. The spirit of the young, dynamic Cameroonians who, at the beginning of this crisis, though were misled, but later on found the path to come back. We saw example of this in Du, when Ngala Gerard descended on Du. We saw 6 young men who abandoned their guns and came back and apologized to the population, and they were embraced, they were welcomed, to say that even those who are still in the bushes at this time, they have nothing to fear. They need just to accept the olive branch that is stretched out to them, to come out of the bushes and to meet their fellow Cameroonians, so that at this moment, which is a defining moment in our country, where we are laying the foundation for a new Cameroon, that they should also be part of what is happening.
When the people saw the CPDM campaign team, the CPDM candidates, legislative and municipal, coming to them at this point in time, after over 3 years of atrocities, 3 years of killings, burning down of entire villages, what was their reaction? Were they receptive?
Yes, Jonathan, you must realize that all those atrocities are getting behind us now, and we are saying that this is not the time to judge people. This is not the time for the blame game, because we know the atrocities have been across the board. You have had people suffering from the atrocious acts of the fighters, the secessionist fighters who are in the bushes. You have also had cases where the military were forced to react with brutal force when it was necessary in cases of insecurity posed by these armed fighters. And the civilians, the innocent civilians, were caught in the crossfires. But at this time, people are beginning to see reality, to recognize that Cameroon is making a decisive turn, where policy is being moved surely to the grassroots, where decisions are going to be taken at the grassroots, where local governance becomes preeminent. Some of the people who went into the bushes did so because they felt that there was over-centralization in the management of state affairs. But we told them that even though government machinery moves sometimes slowly, but this demonstrates to us that it moves surely. With the passage of the recent code of decentralization, which gives a special status to the Northwest and Southwest regions, that is the main message we took out to the militants, to the populations on the ground, to remind them that in the same way that we of the Northwest moved out of the Eastern House in Enugu, that was in the days when we were still with Nigeria, and in the same way that we of the Northwest region voted massively and positively for reunification in 1961, it's in the same way today that we of the Northwest region must vote massively to make sure that the special status becomes a reality. This can only work, Jonathan, if these councillors are voted and they get into office, in order to also vote the regional councillors who will put now into place our regional assembly. Failing which, we will not obtain what we have been looking for, which has been local governance. And the opportunity has been given us through this. And we're insisting that the best partner of the population to lead us into this new Cameroon, is the CPDM party and no one else. That's why we are calling on all the masses of the Northwest region, whether they are CPDM militants or not, for the good of our region. We're asking that they should vote the CPDM lists at these council elections.
But many are not very convinced with this message of spatial status, decentralization, and all of that. The message that you carry to the people. Many Anglophones seem to be very skeptical, and they are just thinking that this whole thing is not going to change anything. This whole thing is going to be another phase of what was qualified in the President Paul Biya's speech during the recent Paris Peace Forum as an attempt of assimilation, that this is going to be another phase. How did you manage to convince the people? Well, were they sure about what you were saying? Were they convinced that
Jonathan,
what you're saying now is going to work?
You saw the images, you saw the populations that came out in the Southwest region. You saw the people that came out in Mutengene, those who came out in Limbe, those who came out in Boya to receive the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Dion Gute, who came with the same message. He came with the same message to the populations of the Southwest region to call on them to vote right. That means to give our future a chance. And if the population of the Southwest region did not believe or did not buy the message which was brought by the Prime Minister, you would not have seen the crowds that you saw. Similarly, when you watch the campaigns on the ground in the Northwest region, if you see the crowds that came out in Ndu, which has been a stronghold of the fighters, if you saw the crowds that came out in Kambe, the crowds that came out in Tabiken, the crowds that came out in Misaje, the crowds that came out in Elak Oku, just to name these ones, even the crowds that came out in Santa. Jonathan, what else do you want? This is a plebiscite of the message we took out, because it shows that the population, despite the security risks, were willing to take a chance to come out to receive the message and to declare that yes, they are ready for the change at this time.
The declaration is what I'm more concerned about, because coming out to listen is one thing, and then what they are saying, what they were saying to the campaigners of the CPDM, to the candidates, to the officials of the party is another thing. What were they saying when they heard you people talking about all these spatial status, decentralization, return to peace and normalcy, development and so on? What were they saying?
Jonathan, you know that not everybody can sing the same song. But what I'm telling you is that by a wide majority, those who came out bought the message. You saw them dancing. You didn't need to do a vox pop to ask every single person of those 3,000 militants that came out in Tabiken. Did you expect to do a vox pop and speak to 3,000 people?
Everybody cannot speak, of course.
The message, the response to me was in the joy, in the dancing, in the singing. That spoke for itself. Even though it's true,
some sort of a sign of hope.
It's true that there must be some dissenting voices here and there, but that is to be expected in a human society. But by and large, we are talking here about democracy, and democracy is a game of numbers. By the numbers I saw, I'm convinced that the message passed, and I am sure that on Sunday, what was said through dance and song will be concretized through the ballot box. And for this reason, I want to take this opportunity again to call on all the populations of the Northwest region. On Sunday, 9th February, when they go out there, this is the ballot paper that will decide the future of the Northwest region in the new Cameroon, vote the CPDM means you are voting for peace in our country. A vote for the CPDM will be a vote for local governance, for development at the grassroots. A vote for the CPDM is a vote for the suffering masses of our region who are now in the bushes, who are crying to come back into their various villages in order to live a normal life. Because it's only through putting in place all of these structures, beginning with the councils, then the regional assembly, which is made up of the House of Chiefs and the House of Divisional Representatives. All of those put together will then permit us to be able to move confidently into the new Cameroon that President Paul Biya is giving us this year, 2020.
All right, some of the people of the Northwest and the Southwest regions listening to you now could be asking the question, after close to 4 decades in power, what is going to change this time around? What is going to change if we actually cast our votes for the CPDM? Because for more than 30 years, little or nothing has changed, and that is why people like Mancho BBC could take to the streets to decry the state of roads in Bamenda, to decry many other social problems affecting the town of Bamenda. That is why there are still many parts of the Northwest region that are enclaved in underdevelopment and so on. So what is going to change? Tell the people.
Yes, Jonathan, when I hear you speak, it sounds to me like we are living in two different countries. If you say that in 30 years nothing has changed.
No, I said little or nothing has changed.
Yeah,
I say nothing.
Yeah, little or nothing. But I want to tell you that a lot has changed. Not just little or nothing. Because if we are talking about the Northwest region, I want to remind you that when this country acceded to independence, we didn't have a university in Bamenda. Neither do we have in Boya. But today, we have the leading universities, Anglo-Saxon type universities, in Boya and in Bamenda. Before independence, we didn't have high schools in every divisional headquarters of the Northwest region. We had just one high school, that was Kasbambili. Today, we have high schools in every single divisional headquarters of the Northwest region, and even in some subdivisions. What has changed? Before we had independence, or before the New Deal came to power, we had very few hospitals in our country. Today, we have divisional hospitals in all divisional headquarters of the Northwest region, and these hospitals are well constructed and well equipped. We expect better. If you see what is happening in other parts of the country, we don't have just divisional hospitals anymore. We have reference hospitals like the one in San Milima,
and regional hospitals,
and regional hospitals like the one in Limbe. So we are expecting that those hospitals should be constructed all over the country, and the Northwest region will not be left behind. In the same way, when you look at the performance even of the private sector today, you find that Cameroon is growing, is doing better than 10 years before. So anybody who thinks that things are not changing is only someone either who is not reading the changes, who is ignorant, or doesn't want to accept that there is change.
But the problem is that the people at the grassroots should feel the change, should feel the impact. When you talk to many of them, they will say, but we are still suffering. No, we have been suffering, and the suffering has even been increasing over the years.
Well, you see, depending on who you are talking to, some people do politics of politicians, others do objective politics like in the CPDM. We accept that things can be made better because that is the objective of the CPDM party. That is why President Paul Biya is calling on Cameroonians to give him an opportunity through the vote on this vote on the 9th of February to enable him to continue resolutely towards emergence in 2035. And I want to assure you that things will only keep getting better, because we have all seen those who thought that after the major national dialogue that nothing was going to happen. Things are happening, and things are surely going to happen with those who wish to join the bandwagon for change and for progress. Now is the time. Tomorrow, the 9th of February, is the time. That's the rendezvous, and the rendezvous is with the CPDM party. Therefore, a vote for the CPDM party, as I said before, is a vote for peace in our country. And a vote for the CPDM party is a vote for local governance through the special status in the Northwest and the Southwest regions.
A vote for peace. Alfred Fogwe, you are one of the leaders of the CPDM campaign team in the Northwest region, and you are the CPDM section president for Noni, the Bui division, Northwest region, and you're also the director general of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company, Shantina. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Have a nice weekend in the company of our programs.